I kind of wanted to talk about a video, like a topic that I had um, kind of thought about before. I know that Johnny Candido has a good powerlifting channel that's been around a long time, and he's talked about this topic, and I kind of wanted to discuss it too. If you think of like powerlifting and strength training, and you think of what the number one factor is in success or not, like people would tend to guess like genetics or something like that, or hard work or effort, or but like if you think of one single training variable, which is the most fundamental or which is important, what would it be? Um, in my opinion, and I think Johnny Candido said the same thing, is that your it's like your mental edge, like are you mentally there or not? That's by far the biggest thing. If you think about it, like when you're lifting weights, you're doing something that's extremely difficult. When you're powerlifting, you're lifting 500 pounds, 600 pounds. A lot of it comes down to, are you mentally there or not to be able to do that? um, that can be as simple as like having your friends there around you, so you kind of feel mentally chill and you can hit your lifts, or um, or kind of like training at your home gym, so the environment's kind of familiar, or using the same squat rack that you always do, like little things like that, but they all kind of add up, and it's huge if you have the mental edge or not. It kind of defies numbers, and it defies like what you've hit before, like technically you should be able to, like, you hit like 405 for 5 this week, next week you should be able to hit 410 for 5, let's say, but your 405 week it goes super fast, and then your 410 week it's like really slow, and you're thinking like, what's up, why would that happen? But the truth is that, I mean, there are a whole host of other variables. Maybe you got your sleep, maybe you got your food correctly, maybe you got all of that, but maybe you just weren't mentally there for whatever reason. That could be from stress, could be from things wrong with your friendships, your relationships. It could be whatever you were going through that day. It could be not having like the music that you usually listen to, little things like that. That's kind of everything. And it's the number one factor. So it's not genetics. There are people who have the genetics to be super muscular. It's not, or strong or big, but it's like, can they take themselves to that place mentally? Can they push themselves in those moments? I think what it is kind of like you have your fears in front of you and you have to face them, and like, can you do it or not? Because a lot of people kind of can't, or they're in that situation and it's difficult to. Um, but whether you can do it or not, like sort of designates whether you get to be a champion or not. It determines, I mean, whether you have that success or not, and just like how far you can kind of take it all. And again, some people can do it, other people can't or don't. If you look at any of the top lifters, whether they're super quiet or they're really psyched up, they take themselves to a certain level and a certain place mentally, that I mean, the lifters who aren't lifting those weights don't, and never do, or never understand how to. People might think that, you see this with some like kind of bro bodybuilders and stuff, that like, oh, like if you go from lifting 3 plates to 4 plates, you have to get so much bigger, so much more muscular, and eat a lot more and train super hard. And in fact, I mean, it's a lot of other things besides that, but a big one is that, like, can you just take yourself there mentally? There are a lot of guys who have like big muscles, huge muscles, but they don't even have the mental fortitude to like train legs at all in the first place. They can't squat or deadlift or squat to depth because it's kind of just too hard, or it mentally, I mean, they kind of can't hang, and it's doing whatever it takes to get you to that place mentally. If that's getting psyched up, that's what it is. If it's getting like super focused, that's what it is. But everyone has a different process, and everyone has a different kind of metric of whether they're there or not, and everyone has a certain way to get there, and it's about, can you get yourself there or not? That's the most important thing. If you have days where you're mentally out of it, like they kind of suck, and a lot of the time you can't hit as much. Maybe you did everything perfectly, but then mentally you're just not there, and that will make or break you, really. For me, a lot of the time that's music. If I don't have my music, I don't know if I can like lift the weights that I do in training. Um, other factors come into play. So like if I'm in the gym that I like, if I'm around friends, if there's like girls watching me or not, that really is a factor, and that kind of helps. And just like other factors like that, if they can all like affect you mentally and stuff. And if I'm feeling anxious or not, sometimes I do have like strong anxiety that like I'll feel, and can hold me back sometimes. A lot of the time I find that when you go for your big lift and then you hit it, and then after you're kind of more chill and you know that you've got it, then you can do the second set and like the next bunch of reps like pretty comfortably, or like without that discomfort and that kind of uncertainty in your head. But until that point, yeah, it can be hard, and there is that doubt, and you don't know if you've got it or not. Yeah, and it's whatever it takes to get to that point. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be super like angry and psyched up, but it does mean some like rage and some calm. Like you have some sort of focus, some sort of mental like edge. Like you're about to lift like a small car, like can you do it? Like you're about to lift something really heavy, can you do it? Like mentally, can you be there? Can you shut your brain off and go and do it? I would always tell my lifters this. My clients, like I tell them that you have to get out of your own head, because if you think of it logically, you'll miss the lift. Like I never think of it like, oh, I'm gonna lift 400 pounds, I'm gonna lift 500 pounds. I just like have to like mentally kind of tune out, listen to my music, and then go for it. Because if I think about it, it's gonna fuck with my head. Like it's a lot of weight. Yeah, you can like hurt yourself pretty seriously if your form is bad or whatever else. But you go for it, and I think that's what it is. It's like conquering fear, and that fear never goes away. That uncertainty never goes away, and that's why I kind of find myself drawn to this sport more than other sports, is because you're competing against yourself, and there's like a make or break moment. Like you have to face fear and really face it, and take yourself to that place over and over again mentally, and it never gets easier, and it's always very hard, and it focuses me like during the off times, like passive times, to do all the passive habits, which are the most important. I mean, like your sleep and your food and your consistency with all those. But then in that moment, it's a fight or flight thing. Are you like scared? Are you pussy? Or are you gonna hit it, and you're gonna hit it hard, and you're gonna make your lift? Are you gonna give it everything that you've got? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, mental or not. Like, do you have the mental edge or not? And I like it because it comes to like with powerlifting, it's a very distinct, delineated like single point, that this is like that point where like you've got it or you don't. Do you mentally got it or you don't? So a lot of time I'd see my lifters that like they've got it strength wise, they've got it technique wise, they don't got it mentally. They get it in their own head, they miss the lift, and that can happen, and it would happen to me too. I think it still can, where like my friends would tell me, yeah, you've got it, but like mentally maybe you don't, and I'd be like, well, really, you think so? And then sometimes they'd be right, sometimes I'd get in my own head. And to a certain degree, if you're going for weights that you don't know you can hit, yeah, that can happen. But other times it is that you just mentally got to shut it off and go for it, and find whatever techniques or whatever methods or strategies work for you to get to that place mentally. But that's what it is, and the number one variable definitely is fixing your mental game and being able to hit those lifts, be in that mindset to be able to hit them. What Eric Bugenhagen always says that, he says it's a mindset, and like he yells it, and it's true. It really is. It's not who has the biggest muscles or anything. I'll just say real quick too that lately I've been playing with this thing where like before I would always carb up and I'd eat like a ton of food before my lifts. Lately I've been eating, but like slightly less, not to the point where I mentally feel like I'm losing my edge. Mentally I still feel like I got it, and then I'll like eat a certain amount and then I'll go and train. And personally I just don't like using caffeine or pre-workout. That's like not like 90% of people, but that happens to work for me. And I just get to a certain place, I eat my meal, focus, listen to some good music, and go and hit my lifts. So yeah, and any of the top lifters, they can all take themselves there mentally. If they couldn't, they wouldn't be able to hit those weights. That's the only way. It's not who's the most muscular, who's the biggest, who's the strongest, who's been training the longest. All of those things can go out the window if you don't have the mental edge that you need. Plain and simple.